if we are developing neuronal atrophy or depression because of cannabis?
It's not likely one would develop neuronal atrophy
Yeah,
from using cannabis. It would actually be likely that one would experiencing neuronal atrophy, meaning again, it's a slowdown of the neurogenesis process. That
yeah,
the brain is you're getting older. The brain is not producing new brain cells, new stem cells, in the way it needs to. That's neuronal atrophy, and as a result, again, it's associated with clinical depression. Um, One is feeling depressed, one may be more likely to reach for cannabis to elevate one's mood, to
yeah,
get out of depression.
yeah,
And that can easily be misinterpreted. Oh, see, that person's neuronal atrophy and they're using cannabis. Cannabis is causing it. It's just the opposite. It's sort of like the amotivational syndrome. Um, One of the I would call it a myth that's been sort of the holdover from reefer madness, the charges leveled against cannabis. Oh, it makes people couch potatoes. You sit around. If you're a
yeah,
young person, it demotivates you. You're not going to do well in school and so forth. The likelihood is if you're already amotivated, you're likely to reach for cannabis. And it might keep you there. It might not motivate you, but it's not what's causing the amotivation. It's just the opposite. And there's a lot of things like that, that it's a sort of a reverse causality. I would say the same for allegations that cannabis causes schizophrenia.
yeah,
Schizophrenia usually occurs with young people in their 20s is when a full-blown schizophrenia would emerge. Um, but there's a period before the full expression of schizophrenia is evident. It's called a sort of the prodromal period, where might be a few years where a person isn't obviously schizophrenic, but they're sliding toward there.
yeah,
They don't have all the symptoms, but that prodromal phase could be very anxiety ridden. It's a type of experience that will make one more likely to want to use cannabis to kind of ease one's stress.
yeah,
And people can then interpret that as, oh, see, that person's smoking a lot of weed now. And look, and now they become schizophrenic. See what the weed did. No, it's just the opposite. Because
absolutely,
they were
yeah,
already becoming schizophrenic. You see, so and I don't want to make light of these things. We're talking about difficult situations where someone you might say is abusing cannabis, smoking from a young person, smoking morning till night, and their social interactions are suffering, their school is suffering, and this is a real situation. But is the problem cannabis, or are there other problems which the cannabis is sort of shielding or hiding because that's what a person seeks to comfort themselves. I think, but there might be better ways for that person to get out of a rut. Exercising regularly, for example, would be one.
yeah,
And exercise, as I mentioned before, exercise actually stimulates neurogenesis. Eating certain kinds of food stimulates neurogenesis. So it's not just these cannabinoids that do that, or psychedelic drugs for that matter, which also stimulate neurogenesis. Um, so we have to look at these things carefully. We shouldn't make light of the fact when someone's going through difficulties, and whether they're using cannabis or not. It's just important not to confuse the issue and scapegoat cannabis when there's really other issues at play.
yeah,
When someone might be having a quote unquote cannabis use disorder, which is a phrase I don't use very often because I think it's one of these sort of medical phrases that have been concocted to describe a set of behaviors that uh, that isn't necessarily caused by cannabis is the issue.
yeah, no, absolutely.